security. We always do time and again, once a while, as it does appear. But yes, remember that some scenario did play itself out in Kaduna. You saw that in the news lately. You also did hear about that in Borno, Maiduguri. So many reports making the rounds about those kind of matters. But that's what we'll focus on today. And don't forget that you can keep your questions, your tweets, your comments coming through, if you will. Well, this time we're joined by Galtima Liman. He's a policy analyst. Quite a while. Thank you for coming on today.
It's a pleasure.
All right then, but in spite of all, yes, so much needs to be done and said about security, but they're saying some things in Borno. The elders, they seem to disagree with the governor on the presence of JTF in that area. So the elders want JTF out. The government says, if you want them out, Boko Haram will overrun this place. So looking at the entire security situation, you've been in and out, looking at these matters time and again. What's the new twist for this one for you?
Well, the Borno elders had consistently maintained that position that the military, the JTF presence, the Joint Task Force presence in Maiduguri is not a welcome development. They've always maintained that position. But those in authority, those like you rightly said, are very much aware of the real security challenge posed by the Boko Haram sector. And so it's a very tough situation there. I've lived through for about 7 months during those crises. And it will be extremely very difficult to align yourself to the Borno elders and say, look, we can pull out this. The government will find it extremely very difficult to do so.
But in the meantime, I mean, because JTF, not just in Borno, there are in many other places that they've been deployed to go in and maintain peace. What could it be? What is it that the elders see or miss out that the government doesn't seem to be on the same page with them?
Well, the reality has been that in Borno State, this security challenge had been building up for the past 30 years or so. And essentially, you could say the elders, the Borno elders, even though you have a pocket of people that are highly respected, you have like the elderly Liman, who was a one-time Minister of Petroleum Resources. You have the likes of Lamin Dagash, who was the third in command and all this. So the reality is that following the local government reform that had taken away a lot of powers of the traditional and spiritual leader in those days, also the political leader, that is the Shehu of Borno, you find out that you don't really have a rallying point for the elders, so to say, because here you have a traditional ruler that had a lot of clout in terms of the financial clout, in terms of what he could do to the prisons and all that kind of a thing. And because of the military rule as far back as 25 years, you know, they've been able to take those powers. There's a big vacuum there. So who is now speaking on behalf of the elders in Borno State? It's quite a very big challenge. On the other side, you have the political equation. People flocked into the opposition because Maiduguri essentially was the headquarters of the ANPP, which was the main opposition party. And within the ANPP itself, you had the Buhari faction, you had also the Modu Sheriff faction. And a lot of people flocked in because of the integrity and the purity of Buhari. Subsequently, he was more or less kicked out of that party. And so you could say that on the political level, you had people aggrieved because the ticket for the presidential candidate was not given to a presidential candidate that was popularly loved by the people. And the ANPP ended up supporting the PDP. And the PDP itself also lost the election again to the ANPP. So there's a lot of confusion going on there. You don't have leadership at the political level because the incumbent governor, who had been very, very prominent, who is right now also the Board of Trustees chairman, lost out in the political calculation when he veered off from the Buhari element in terms of the huge popular support. So he contested for the Senate, and he lost the election. So you actually don't have a leadership situation there, either on the Shehu side, because Shehu used to be appointed by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces in those days. And this particular shows, as I told you, because of the local government reform, was appointed by Modu Sheriff before he left this. And so people are looking at him as not so popular, because of the elements. And there is another element that the State Assembly came out with that created another kingdom there, another shehu, another emir. So you had, instead of two, one in a first-class chief in Bama, another first-class chief in Maiduguri, which had consistently been a rallying point, had been also subdivided into another three. With the Modu Sheriff's dad becoming the the Galtima of the Dikwa Emirate and all that. So all these other things had created a vacuum, and so when you now factor the element of the extrajudicial killings of the Yusufia movement leader, the Mohammed Yusuf, and all these other things that they have seen on the YouTubes and all that, it created this kind of anger. And once the Maiduguri, which used to be the headquarters of the ANPP, disintegrated, you had the ripple effect in Bauchi, a ripple effect in Kaduna, and all these other places. That was the rallying point for the opposition.
But would it be right to say that there's not been genuine concern, that the federal government has not been genuinely concerned or has not been genuinely tackling the insecurity situation there?
Well, you cannot say nobody that sees these security
the elders
challenges
are claiming that they've not done and they've not been doing it genuinely.
No, it's not a question about whether or not it's genuine. It's just that over the years, this situation built itself up. And if you look at the genesis of even the Boko Haram, the Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb and all this, had a much more Herculean challenges to the security administration, because over the years, if you look at even the army barracks, the police barracks, the pay package of the security agencies, we've taken things for granted. There's been a complete disconnect between the leadership and the followership. And you had over $400 billion of taxpayers' money that ought to have gone into investment, ought to have gone into employment generation. For a number of years, this had not taken place. And so you have had this social crisis building itself gradually. And so overnight, because of this post-election violence and this election, that everybody was thinking, for instance, that the opposition party had a lot of, expectation that they were going to have so many states, so that possibly they will begin to see changes in their lifestyle. That was completely shattered. At the end of the day, I think the CPC, which was very, very popular, as you've seen in the elections building up to the 2011 election, ended up having just one state out of the 19 states. And a lot of people felt, look, this is completely a misnomer, and therefore there was this post-election violence, which everybody saw. So it's not like the government is not genuine, but the reality is that the security challenges had been building up for the past 20 to 30 years. From the military administration, and everybody had, particularly in the northern Nigeria, the agric was the mainstay of the economy, the social activities. People, flocked into the oil and gas sector, allocation from Abuja, and so there was a total disconnect, and unemployment was building up, the educational system was collapsing, the poverty rate, as we've seen in the World Bank statistics and all that, was building up. So, and the population was growing. So at the end of the day, here you have young people that were being used again by the politicians to win elections. They were arming them. There was a time the secretary to the government, Kingibe, who was also one time the vice presidential candidate of the SDP, Abiola's SDP, was the secretary to the government. He said, look, the way I'm seeing it, that was as far back as 2008, the way I'm seeing it, we're going to face massive security challenges. There is need for us to have what he called a kind of an emergency rule in the states, in Borno State particularly, because of the way the politicians were arming the youths, were providing a lot of drugs for them. You wouldn't believe it. Borno State the youths are so much into drugs.
Wow. So
much into drugs, you wouldn't believe it. So it's a very serious situation there that is gradually portraying itself out, and it's now showing that the government itself has not gotten enough capacity to deal with this issue. Repeatedly, His Excellency Jonathan Goodluck keeps on appealing to Angela Merkel of Germany or Barack Obama, please, we need technical support, we need support to see how we can deal with these terrorist security challenges in northern Nigeria.